Near record heat sticks around for the next couple of days. Then we're talking a slow, steady cool down as rain returns to the forecast.
And so I will be in support of this as well. There's no more commentary. Prepare to vote.
With that, an emergency ordinance is passed designating part of 29th Avenue on the South Hill a pedestrian street. What it means for you and some businesses.
It is so painful hearing how harmful this statue is to Samoans because it uplifts somebody who killed their ancestors.
Council also working on a new way to address people's complaints about monuments they find racist or offensive. We'll explain what that means. New tonight.
KREM 2 News 10 at 10 begins now with Mark Hanrahan and Jeremy Legoo.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. Just hours ago, Spokane City Council members passed an ordinance which lays out how the city will act upon complaints about statues deemed racist or offensive on city property. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk explains what it means, new at 10 tonight.
This statue outside the Spokane Club celebrates Spokane veteran John Monahan. However, some community members say it also perpetuates racism. The plaque below the statue refers to Samoan people as savage foes.
It's 2024. We don't call people savages anymore. That's just not a thing we do. And so to have a piece of city property with the label calling a group of people savages is probably something we should all collectively say is bad.
According to the Spokane Historical Society, Monahan was in the first graduating class at Gonzaga University and the first person in Washington State to attend the Naval Academy. Monahan served as an officer aboard the USS Philadelphia, which destroyed native villages in Samoa as the U.S. battled the British to gain control. Monahan was killed by natives in one of those battles. His statue was dedicated in 1906, and it stood here ever since.
If there's such a problem with the word savage, maybe put a sign there and explain, because we can't change history.
City Council members heard testimony tonight from those who want the statue to stay and others who want it torn down.
It is so painful hearing how harmful this statue is to Samoans because it uplifts somebody who killed their ancestors. The statue sends a message that Samoans and Pacific Islanders are unwelcome here in Spokane.
The Spokane Human Rights Commission passed a resolution 2 years ago in support of removing the statue, but the city had no clear process to act or respond to their recommendation. Tonight, council members passed an ordinance to consider and act upon community members' concerns regarding institutional statements, names, or monuments on property owned by the city.
This is a small step in righting a wrong. I really look forward to us passing this.
The ordinance passed 5-2. Councilman Michael Cathcart and Jonathan Bingle voted against it. Bingle believes both sides of this debate could meet in the middle.
There are two open sides to the Monahan statue where we could add a modern context. So first off, we can address what has been said for over 100 years on that statue. Obviously, calling an entire group of people savages is completely unacceptable.
To be clear, council members did not vote to remove the statue. The ordinance passed simply creates a process to consider and act upon community members' concerns concerning city-owned property. In Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
And in our effort to bring you more to every story, City Council also voted to pass an emergency ordinance that will help turn a section of 29th into a more pedestrian-friendly street. The ordinance prevents new drive-through business, but doesn't impact the ones that already exist. The area in question is primarily between Martin and Fisk, again on 29th on the South Hill. The council members against it say it does not encourage walkability or include money for streetscaping. The vote still passed 5-2 tonight. And just hours ago, an Eastern Washington University professor spoke at a meeting about PFAS contamination in the groundwater near the West Plains. The contamination itself is from firefighting foam used at Fairchild Air Force Base and at the Spokane International Airport for decades. Because the PFAS chemicals are considered permanent, and this year we spoke to families wondering about the health effects they might have. At tonight's meeting, Dr. Chad Pritchard said the Inland Northwest is particularly bad when it comes to getting rid of that contamination because of the bedrock in the land.
The groundwater flow out here is not great for storing water. They unfortunately are great paths for disseminating contamination.
Officials from the EPA were also there to talk about the resources available to those with contaminated well water. And happening tomorrow, Spokane Public Schools hosting a meeting to discuss a bond and replacement levy that may be on your ballot for this upcoming election. That levy would support several different services and programs, while the bond supports updating and improving school buildings. If either fail, it could impact schools across the city. Tomorrow's meeting is at Gary Middle School from 5:15 to 6:15 in the library. It is open to the public with no RSVP required. If you can't make it tomorrow, another meeting will be held at Chase Middle School coming up on Thursday. All right, turning to weather now. We've had a pretty unbelievable 2 days considering we are still in January. Let's get straight to Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoux to find out if these warm temperatures are sticking around for the week. Jeremy?
I think they stick around for the week, and I think we close out January exceptionally warm. It is even going to bump our average temperature for the month as a whole up pretty close to those seasonal norms. We have a little bit of fog forming out in Airway Heights and likely wind up with a little bit more of that throughout the evening. Visibility dropping in parts of the region, but that's kind of what we expected in this overall weather pattern. Just know that when we head through the next, I would say 24 hours, we'll start to see more cloud cover and more moisture stream in. All we are getting right now is a little bit of cloud cover overrunning ahead of our next round of moisture moving through. Doesn't really make its way out of the Cascades. I think what winds up happening is a few scattered showers off to our north kind of tomorrow afternoon, and then a better shot kind of Wednesday afternoon. Wake up to a little bit of sunshine Wednesday morning, a few scattered showers later in the day, and then things just continue to get wetter from there. 50 tomorrow, 52 Wednesday. Thursday, it's almost a guaranteed round of rain, and that starts our slow, steady decline into the weekend, but even then, temperatures remain above normal.
All right, sounds good, Jeremy. I'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. And now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. A Spokane County judge sentenced a local woman to almost 11 years in prison after she killed 2 people in a drunk driving hit and run crash. Megan Skillingstad pleaded guilty to 2 counts of vehicular homicide and 1 count of hit and run. She hit and killed Desmond Miller and his fiancée, Katie McFerrin, while driving drunk near Airway Heights last spring. She initially pleaded not guilty to the crime in May. Well, today she changed her plea to guilty to all 3 charges. And in her statement to the judge, Skillingstad apologized to the victims' families for her actions.
I deeply regret my actions and what life I have taken from Katie and Desmond and their families and their children and anyone involved that loved them.
Well, this is not the first time that Skillingstad has been involved in a crime like this. She was also convicted of another deadly hit and run back in 2013. The judge landed on a nearly 11-year sentence in prison. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office asking for help identifying a man who tried to break into an ATM with a power saw. It happened back on January 7th at around 3 o'clock in the morning. The suspect and another man pulled up to the First Interstate Bank on Francis in North Spokane. The man tried to saw into the ATM, causing extensive damage. The suspect is described as a white man in his 20s. If you can help identify him, please call that number right there at the bottom of your screen. 1 person died, another had to be rushed to the hospital after a house fire in Princeton, Idaho. According to the Latah County Sheriff's Office, that fire was reported at 9:15 last night. Firefighters got to the home on McKinneyville Road in less than 15 minutes. Once inside, they discovered a body in the burned out debris, they said. The Idaho State Fire Marshal is now investigating and working to identify the person killed in the fire. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just head to our website. That's KREM.com. In national news now, we just heard from officials in California about a mass murder in the Mojave Desert. Officials say 5 people are now in custody for the murders of 6 people. The horrific crime scene was a few miles off the highway in El Mirage. Investigators were called out to the area at around 8 p.m. on Tuesday for a welfare check connected to a white minivan at the crime scene and found 5 of the 6 bodies. They found a 6th the next morning. Officials also determined a motive at today's press conference. Take a listen.
I can confirm all victims had apparent fatal gunshot injuries. Additionally, 4 of the 6 were burned at the location by the suspects. As far as the motives, we are confident that this appears to be a dispute over marijuana, which resulted in the murders.
The Narcotics and Specialized Enforcement Division served multiple search warrants over the last few days, and that led to the 5 arrests.
$11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Well, you might remember that moment caught on a Seattle police officer's body camera last year. Those were the remarks of Officer Daniel Otterer after another officer hit and killed a 23-year-old woman. Tonight, a new memo from police commanders recommends the highest level of discipline possible for Otterer that ranges from a 30-day suspension to termination. In a statement, they called the conduct, quote, overwhelmingly destructive unprofessionalism, unquote. In other news, Idaho death row inmate Thomas Creech's execution is moving forward. Just hours ago, the Idaho Commission of Pardons and Parole denied Creech's request to reduce his sentence to life in prison. Creech was sentenced to death for the murder of a fellow inmate in 1981 and was convicted of 4 other murders. He also admitted to killing dozens of people and just last week was named a suspect in a California cold case. Tonight, Governor Little released a statement saying in part, quote, as governor, I have zero intention of taking any action that would halt or delay Creech's execution. His lawful and just sentence must be carried out as ordered by the court. Justice has been delayed long enough, unquote. And that